Hello everybody, it's me, Sports Talk Guy. I know it's been a while. I've been really busy with just real life stuff, so that's all I can really say. But anyways, let's get on to the video. And if you noticed, I'm wearing a San Francisco Giants jersey. I'm not a Giants fan, I'm a Phillies fan, but Hunter Pence, this is the player that I'm wearing, the player's jersey that I'm wearing. Hunter Pence, he's my favorite player in baseball. I've always liked him, and then he became my favorite when he came to the Phillies, and then he left the Phillies, and I was sad, but he was still my favorite player. So, what we're here to talk about today is Piers Morgan. I don't know if you all know who Piers Morgan is. Piers Morgan, he was, I guess you say, kind of a news anchor for CNN. He also did some soccer, because he's from England, currently lives in Los Angeles and New York. He goes back and forth between the two. Anyways, it's completely irrelevant. What is relevant is the comments that he said, and I want to talk about this. A little controversial. Some people might not like me for this. Not a lot of people watch my videos, but some people that might watch some of these sports might not like me for this. Anyways, Piers Morgan, I think 3-4 days ago, shortly after he got kicked off his show on CNN, because he's not doing CNN anymore, he's actually doing nothing right now. So, but shortly after he got kicked off ESPN, I guess he's trying to stay in the spotlight. He said that the football in the NFL is girly. Football is girly. American football is girly. He then went on to say, and these aren't exact quotes, but this is like the summary of what he's saying. Then he went on to say that soccer and rugby were much tougher and had the better athletes. And where does hockey come in? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. He didn't say anything about hockey. This was what I'm going to say about hockey. Now, between these four sports, soccer, football, American football, rugby, and hockey, four very tough and athletic sports, I'm going to run down, give my opinions on the sports, and I'm going to base them off two things: off athleticism and off, well, athleticism and skill and toughness, as in the physical hits and body work you take that deteriorates your body. So when we do that on the list, I'm going to go in order backwards from what I think is the least to the most. Starting with the least, it is both the least for me in skill and in toughness. Soccer. Probably could have guessed that. Soccer, the intangibles for it that you need really to be a successful soccer player, other than goalie. We're not going to talk about the goalie. That's a completely different thing. We're talking about the main rest of the players on a soccer field. All you need for soccer is speed and footwork. That's all you need, and you'll be a successful soccer player, I promise you. If your feet are good and you have a strong leg and you're very fast, you will be successful. There's nothing else that goes into soccer. This part right here, see all this? You don't need any of this. You need this a little bit, and you need this a little bit. You don't need this. None of this. You don't need this. So, it's stupid. You just take out a quarter or half of your body, really. And I don't find soccer very tough. They're almost like the NBA, where they have, and we're just going to talk, the basketball by any means isn't tough in terms of physicality, but in my opinion, soccer is a sissy sport. I mean, I've seen soccer play before. They cry and complain. Oh, well, getting kicked in the shins hurt. Oh, getting hit by Patrick Willis hurts. What hurts more? Let's think about that one. Anyways, on to my next, and the sport that I guess is considered tougher. Now, between soccer and this next one, there's a huge margin of actual toughness. So, oh, and one more thing about soccer that I forgot to add, actually, between the speed and the footwork, you also do need stamina. That is key. If you can run for long distance, you could also have that. Speed and that go hand in hand, because you could be a little bit slower, but you could have the more stamina and also be just as successful as a pure speed guy. But anyways, on to my next one, which is rugby. And now you're probably thinking, how is rugby third? How is that behind hockey and football? Why is that less than them? Now, recently, I've been noticing I go on Bleacher Report a lot, and the past 2 to 4 months, and about that time frame, I've seen a lot of articles about what's tougher in people giving their opinions of what's tougher in football or rugby. I've also, for the first time, I think right before New Year's or right after, or somewhere in that time frame, I watched my first full 4 like rugby games in a row. They were on NBC, and I watched them, and it was some kind of tournament in Las Vegas. It was international, so there's teams from all over the world. It was fun to watch. It was definitely interesting, and I guess I didn't. It's not that I didn't enjoy it, but it's not that I liked watching it. If there was something else, I probably would have watched that instead. But that it was good enough that I'd stayed on with it. But with rugby, well, you probably say, well, these guys don't use pads. These guys hit each other man on man. The pads just are non-existent, and these guys are going out there killing each other. They're smacking each other as hard as they can. They get on piles on each other until that ball flies out. Well, the argument was also Piers Morgan, when he said this, he said, I'd like, and it also on the Piers Morgan thing, it was on Bleacher Report. There's always a comment section of Bleacher Report. I read this. Oh, there was people, I saw people that legitimately said this, that I would like to see a guy like Adrian Peterson play soccer or rugby. And I was like, well, first off, in my mind, with the soccer thing, when they said this comment, they said, well, of course Adrian Peterson can't play soccer. Like, that's a given. But can Messier play football? No. He can't play American football like Adrian Peterson can't play soccer. That's a given. Peterson probably can't kick a ball. But you know what? In the general aspect of all football players, there are definitely football players who can play soccer. Guaranteed. And here's why. Oh, and also, Chad Ochocinco played soccer. Granted, he didn't play in England. He played in the MLS. But Chad Ochocinco played soccer for a little bit. In about maybe a month, he was on a team. He still played. And guarantee you, most kickers and punters probably can play soccer. And guarantee you, most European players probably can't play soccer. European soccer players, or football. Most European soccer players can't play football. And because you can't really say, oh, well, this guy can't play our sport. Yeah, well, you can't play their sport. So, and anyways, what I was saying with rugby, it's kind of the same thing with rugby. I saw a few people kind of said like other things like, oh, if American football players could never play rugby, they'd get killed without the pads. No, so listen, the pads in American football are so players don't die. Because if NFL players weren't wearing pads, there'd be death. And if you would want to put an NFL team against a rugby team, they would kill them. They would absolutely kill them. Try telling me that an NFL team that has guys, all you need to compose is a team of linebackers and running backs, and you'd murder a rugby team. Those are the two toughest positions in terms of physical and all-around athleticism on the field. Definitely is the linebackers and the running backs. And with rugby, it's a mix of, I guess, soccer and football, where you could actually throw the ball forward. It's like ultimate football that you can run in. And the goal is to get to, I guess, the end zone. I don't know if it's called that. And when I saw this, you don't throw the ball like this. You chuck the ball like this, and you put spiral on it, and it flies. It's a cool way to throw it. But if you teach half of an NFL team that you put up against a rugby team just to do that, they would murder them because they're just so much bigger. Patrick Willis, he's about 250 pounds, about 6'2" or 3", and he's the fastest linebacker in the NFL. And I guarantee you, probably 90. Okay, let me rephrase this. Probably 90% of the wide receivers, 50% of the tight ends, 70% of the DNs, and about 80% of the linebackers are faster than probably most rugby players. Because there was some guys from South America I saw. They were extremely fast, and they could probably they had the speed. They had wide receiver caliber speed, and I was like, that's good, that's respectable. But if you want to, in the hitting department, if you would put compose a team with just like Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, Clay Matthews, Kiko Alonso, Luke Kuechly, a team like that, they would kill rugby players, and I mean kill them. It wouldn't even be fair. Now on, and that's where I guess I'm coming from. Before I continue, I was going to say now on, but I'm going to continue this. In rugby, now let's talk about the skills for it. In rugby, you have to have stamina. You have to be fast. You have to be able to catch. You have to be able to run. And elusiveness helps because you want to try to avoid as many tackles as you can. So there's that. And now I don't know the positions in rugby specifically either. When I watched the game, like I didn't, excuse me, recognize them calling out positions like, oh, like maybe like soccer, like where there's like defensive mids and like your strikers and stuff. Like there's nothing related along those lines. I didn't really hear them call out any positions. But I don't know if there's specific guys who are just better at throwing a rugby ball or not. But that doesn't matter. It looks like they all threw the ball the same way. And I think you can't throw a rugby ball forward either. I'm not sure about that, but don't quote me on that. But anyways, for that for rugby you need to have speed, and I guess it helps to be bigger because most of these guys, I guess, looked a lot like smaller linebackers. These rugby players, they definitely didn't look like big linebackers. These guys, all these guys, at least when I was watching, were between the 5'7" and about the 6'1" range, and they were all relatively quick, and then some that were actually fast. So that's why I'm saying they're in that range. And I mean, like, I guess you need a number of things for football. Let's talk about football while talking about rugby. And football is my number 2, so that by default leaves hockey is my number 1. But we'll get to that out of these 4 sports. Football, the way the positions are set up, each position has its own set of skills and its own set of toughness. Really, other than the kickers and punters in football, every position has a very long, extensive length of toughness. And don't get me wrong, rugby players are tough. They're some of the toughest athletes on the planet, other than soccer players, because soccer players aren't tough. Let's stop that. Between these three sports are the 3 in terms of physically enduring and getting hit and getting your bones shattered. These 3 sports that are coming up, on even the ones I'm talking about right now, there's none tougher. Don't get me wrong, rugby players are tough SOBs, but they don't compare to football or hockey players. And now, I guess let's get on to football. I mean, football players wear pads, yeah, but also, I mean, sometimes the pads had a little extra oomph. I mean, it's illegal now, but if a guy leads with his head, like he hits you in the stomach with his head, that hurts a lot more. A big, nice plastic head hurts a lot more than just getting a spear from a regular rugby player without pads on. Granted, you have chest pads, but there's a small, if you aren't wearing a flak jacket, because there's certain types of pads you wear, and I guess a receiver would probably wear a flak jacket, and running backs probably would too, but there's a small little opening right around the stomach, low around here. If you've ever seen NFL pads, how they come like this. It's a nice little small little opening right in the gut. And if you get taken out there, that's a nice wind knockout right out of you. That's a spot right here, right in this area, right where I'm rubbing, like right above your dick and like right below your, I guess, this area where your ribs like aren't existent and they start to go out. There's a nice little open area there. That hurts, I promise you, and I promise you it hurts getting taken out of the knees, even though you have so soft pads on. And sometimes leading with the shoulder, these big pads, that hurts a lot more than just getting hit by a regular shoulder. I promise you. They wear pads just so they don't get hurt. But if you wanted to get a guy with pads on going against a guy with no pads on, it's going to hurt a lot more. I promise you. Now on to hockey. Some of you are probably asking, why is hockey number 1? It's not that tough. The guys don't get hurt that much. Well, yes. Hockey is very safe, I guess. It's been one of the safer sports. They've been getting safer, and a lot of their injury numbers have went down over the past few years with making and they haven't made adjustments to pads, really, other than they added a visor that you have to wear instead of because it went from, you had, in every other level other than the professional level, you have to wear a cage. Until about the late 70s, early 80s, you didn't wear a helmet at all. And then now you've been able to wear a helmet you've always been required to wear a helmet, and now you are becoming required to wear visors. It was optional before then to wear a visor if you wanted to, but now it's becoming required. So yeah, I mean, that's the only really pad thing. They even cut down goalie pads too, but it doesn't. They cut them down in terms of size, not in terms of how much they protect you. But anyways, listen. I promise you, because I played hockey and football. Now I only play baseball, but I played hockey and football. I promise you, a hockey player going 20 to 30 miles per hour on skates and checking you up against the boards hurts a lot more than Patrick Willis spearing you in the stomach. I promise you that. I promise. And hockey players are also the most athletic players on the planet, in my opinion, and here's why. You have to be able to skate. That's the number 1 reason. Every other sport involves running. This sport involves skating. A lot of people don't know how to skate, period, and even skate well. If some of the people that do know how to remotely skate, you have to be able to skate well. That's the biggest one. Secondly, their sport involves a little extra. Between football, baseball, soccer, hockey, rugby, any sport that involves a ball or a puck, anything that involves scoring something, like a volleyball spiking it down, whatever, it doesn't matter. Hockey, other than baseball, I guess, because baseball you swing a bat and then you hit the ball. Hockey, you always have a stick. You always have something to use to move this object that you're doing. In football, you throw it. In soccer, you kick it. In rugby, you throw it. Probably can't kick it, actually. That to move the item that you're trying to score. A hockey puck and using a stick, that's not easy, I promise you. It's a lot harder than a running back taking a handoff for a hockey player to just keep the puck. Turnovers are common in hockey. The average hockey game probably gets about, between both sides, 10 to 20 turnovers in a game, or takeaways. Sometimes if an unforced, like there's unforced turnovers, and like and then there's like forced turnovers, and then those don't really count towards it. It's complicated for people that don't know hockey. But in terms of toughness, I've seen, my dad used to own a hockey team that played in, I think I forget the name of the league. It was like it was a men's league, but like some of these guys ended up going to the minor leagues. I think it was called the Atlantic Coast Hockey League. And there was this one game. I think it was about 10 years ago. I think I was about 8 years old, and I'd watch so many games because my dad was the owner of the team, and I'd always go. And there was a goalie who got cut by his skate right in his neck, right here, right there, got cut. Blood is all over the ice. An ambulance is coming. It was bad. It was real bad, I promise you. I promise you, in another sport, you're not going to get cut this long. Also, another thing, hockey players, it's not common. I mean, maybe once every other game for an average team, a player will get hit in the face with a stick or a puck. And a lot of guys, you'll notice, normally a stick isn't enough to give you even close to a concussion, but a stick can give you a nice cut, while a puck, you could probably get concussed from that, and I've seen it happen. There's a lot of hockey players, I promise you, who sometimes whether get cut at the legs, cut in their face, will get stitches and be back on the ice 5 minutes after they get their stitches. No other sport will get, none of their players, if they get cut or not break something, but get something, a huge gash. And I get it, in those other sports it doesn't happen as often. But even in football, sometimes a guy will get, I mean, a cleat, if you step on someone the right way, you could cut someone open nicely with a football cleat or even a soccer cleat. And I guarantee you, in either of the sports, if someone has to get stitches, they're not coming back into a game, probably missing a few games. Hockey players will get stitches in the same game and come back. No other sport does that. No other sport is tough enough to do that, I promise you. And I guess that pretty much wraps up this video about what sports are tougher and I guess kind of more athletic. This is really what it was about, who beats who in toughness and skill. Now, there's also basketball and baseball, in which case, if we want to get to at most athletic, you could throw basketball and baseball somewhere in this list in other parts, and if you want to get in terms of toughness, you could also throw them in other parts, in my opinion. In terms of toughness, soccer is at the way bottom, because it's just the only true sport that soccer really beats is probably volleyball, because there's no physical contact period in volleyball. I mean, at least in baseball, casual collisions, which they're trying to take away now, and running into a wall exists, and there's ways to hurt yourself. But yeah, we're just here to talk about these four sports, because Piers Morgan is an idiot, and I just wanted to talk about it. And some of the people in the comments of this Bleacher Report article are also idiots, and I too need to shed light onto them. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next episode.